Oh no, I'm glad you can't see me in this one because I've got bad chocolate teeth. Bad. Anyway, where were we? Oh, that's right. Discussing the independent, broad-based anti-corruption unit that was torn up, that was the OPI investigation unit that got very close, but wasn't allowed to run its investigation to rid Victoria of the corruption that very, very, very heavily needed, clearly, getting removed from the government, in the police, in the prisons, the whole lot. That wasn't allowed to run its course after the very famous Lawyer X fiasco. So anyway, when Daniel Andrews got voted in, this is how controlling, this is how non-independent it really is, which you would not know. The average taxpayer would not know until they're driving over cobbled roads, going to sleep with a baseball bat under their bed, and then passing, like there's news in today's Herald Sun, the local newspaper in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, about how, we really need to pass some laws to make it so the homeowners should be allowed to defend themselves. Are you mad? It should be, the front page news should be, Jacinta Allen, how did we get like this? Daniel Andrews, you need to be dragged before the Royal Commission to run that. You ran an OPI investigation. You should be just nailing them. You built it. Let me just point it out to you, public. In 2007, after there was some very, very obvious government department corruption. Now this all coincides because it's the same MO. The same template skeleton to police corruption, government department corruption is the same that allows for your money to be robbed. Just the genuine mismanagement, the morale depleted police, the morale depleted AMBOs, it all comes, it's the same. So anyway, let's reiterate this one quickly. In 2007, after the dead set fiasco that was the Lawyer X story, which again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, was a high-ranking lawyer from a high-ranking, well-known law family, from one of those like Pappas, one of those, snouts in the trough, but dodgy as all get. That ingrained, they've forgotten the proper process, by the name of Gobbo, just in case you don't know. Now, this high-ranking, esteemed law family defence lawyer was sleeping with a high-ranking police officer and sleeping with a high-ranking drug dealer at the same time. If that doesn't tell you, we got a big problem. Just that little statement there, that they're all in there snorting around in the same little trough without any proper policing or monitoring, independent policing or monitoring. It's chaos. It's a recipe for a $200 billion debt disaster, $100 billion gone to organised criminals disaster. That's what it is. Anyway, that part aside, around then there was the 2007 OPI investigation, Office of Public Integrity or Professional Integrity, basically independent, meant to be for handling the policing of government departments, including the police. And it was so obvious that there was a lot of corruption in the state of Victoria when you had Paul Dale robbing drug houses and killing people, allegedly. It was dodgy as all get out. It was very obvious there was a lot of corruption, to the point where the powers that be built an entire prison unit. I kid you not. If you go to, when Port Phillip Prison starts doing its tours, you know how they do tours of Pentridge? In about another 10 years' time, when you run tours of Port Phillip Prison, this housed some of the worst, including that dog Mickey Califf, who lived in cell 27 of Waxenby after spending a little bit of time in Scarb South and a little bit of time in Scarb North. Don't forget the time that he was in Fishburn West with all the bikies. Oh yeah, that scumbag, we know him, yeah. When you start doing the tours of Port Phillip, you'll see there's a unit in there called Salamander. Now Salamander is now, before it got closed, it was a management unit. It turned into a management unit basically in what they call the back part. So, non-mainstream part of Port Phillip Prison. The only part of the prison I haven't seen, really, which shows one thing: I'm a model inmate who doesn't get in trouble, and I'm just a mainstream, normal kind of guy. When I did just keep my head down and try and get in and out of prison until I can turn my life around and get rid of these corrupt people who are following me around and stalking me and steering drug addict girls into me to weaponize a sex offense against me. Just that type of stuff. Well, anyway, during this, in that prison, there's a unit called Salamander. Now that unit has larger cells. Now why does it have larger cells? What? Because you think all of a sudden during that period they were like, haha, let's be nice to the inmates. No, they built that prison unit with larger cells. I promise you this. They built that with larger cells because, I kid you not, because corrupt police officers and government department workers do their prison harder. I kid you not. Not they belong in a cell with a pedophile. They do it harder, so it will cost the taxpayer more money by building extra large cells. Anyway, my point is, it's in concrete that somewhere, somehow, somewhere like around the time of that 2007 OPI investigation, somewhere up there in the oligarchy, you know, up there in that like untouchable, not corrupt but corrupt area, including the mainstream media, were well aware that there was a level of corruption in the state of Victoria that needed a very... Prison units don't come cheaply, girlfriend. I mean, we're talking about a minimum $500 million to slap down a quick, prison unit with extra large cells. They were going to put the jacuzzis, but they thought, hang on, that might get us voted out of office. They might, the public might not like the jacuzzis. We'll just stick to the, extra large cells with the massage beds and, all right? Anyway, coincidentally, after building that prison unit, which is all there in concrete, it's all there. It's not like, oh, is this guy lying? Is he making stuff up because, they sex offended him? Is he like... No. I couldn't be happier with the way my life has gone. I feel like I've never had more purpose in my life than to expose this type of abuse of power and corruption. I am wrapped. So don't misread that. My point is, it's there in concrete. Not like, hey, it was on a contract and then we tore that up. It is in concrete, like bigger cells. If the story is there, you can go and ask any prison officer. And they will go, yeah, it's true. No, yeah, it's true. Okay, yeah. Anyway, they'll say this. Off the record, okay, it's true. Anyway, so then what happens? That OPI investigation, it doesn't run. Why? Well, if you believe the stories, and it ended up, you ready for this? They had to have New South Wales judges come down to do all this because they couldn't trust the Victorian system. I kid you not. This is all out there. Which is, my point is, why I'm bunging on about it, aside the outright ugliness I was exposed to, aside that just sparked me into action. I would have been happier just to leave myself alone till I could get myself a job. I would have been there fitting tyres, selling spare parts, maybe studying, who knows, doing something. But they didn't want that. According to Magistrate Pappas, she was trying to ruin my reputation. She even said it on tape in the court. She goes, when you came to all smug and smart ass, like they knew exactly what they were doing by breaking the law, telling all and sundry about Michael Califf, completely against the law, but they do it in a shrewd way. Hey, Cav, you know, hey, we got to keep an eye on him. Hey, Kangan Teeth. Like I've still got this moron who is paid to keep an eye on me in my TAFE class now. Can you believe that? Paid government money to keep an eye on Michael Califf. No, not a criminal, a whistleblower. I kid you not. Anyway, so here is this unit called Salamander built. That is fact. This is my point I'm getting at. That is fact. Now then what happened was that OPI investigation that had all these New South Wales judges and whatnot come down to run it wasn't allowed to run its course. They go, the story reads, how true it is, I don't know. The story reads, the OPI investigation was not allowed to run its course due to legislation needing passing. Well, that leads to three quick ones. That leads to, would you have not thought of not, you wouldn't have done like your little Gantt charts and your PERT charts and your SWOT analysis, and you wouldn't have done your planning and sort of like before you got into the investigation stage, thought, hey, better check the legislation. You get me? So, two, it was very obvious that there's some corruption that needs removing that didn't get removed. It's in concrete. It's like carving your name. It's like carving it there. Hey, there's corruption in Victoria. We've built a prison unit to show it, okay? But no, we can't run it. We had to get New South Wales judges down here because we can't be trusted to police ourselves. But yeah, we had to stop that investigation. But wait, there's one more thing. It leads to one massive, glaringly obvious question. So when they stopped that OPI investigation, why didn't they change the legislation? I mean, they want to change legislation for a bloody machete ban. They can't change legislation for something that important and then get it done again. Okay, there's that angle. But then there is also this very glaringly obvious one. So all those corrupt police officers, government workers, lawyers, hopefully a judge that dodged that OPI investigation, that were meant to be in that prison unit they very expensively built using the public's money, what happened to them? I'll tell you what happened to them. They were allowed to continue on in the Victorian state government in some of the most important departments, rising up the ranks, firmly ingraining that disgusting culture of corruption, blind eye turning. There's that rotten power abuse, disgusting. That now, so many years later, we have stories of, hang on, before we get to the stories of the worst crime stats on record, there's a little bit more involved. We also have stories of those same corrupt police officers in a system where the chief magistrate pappasses have a judicial system to work with that doesn't do deals. We're not in America where, hey, we're going to do a plea deal. Hey, get the Pitbull O'Hallahan and do a deal. We don't have that system. It has to be heard in front of a judge. The judge, when you hear, there's sentence indication, that's only if the judge feels like it. It's not like, we don't have a deal system. Anyway, this led to, and it was only to add to the of it, it was only exposed by a bikie who was put on the stand testifying against another bikie. Otherwise, it would have continued on. And what that was high-ranking, very arrogant police officers were getting stooged, fooled, conned for over 15 years I kid you not. It's all out there. It's in the mainstream media, even though they haven't jumped on it for some reason. I don't understand how this isn't front page news on the regular. They allowed for a situation in a system that has no deals, remember? And we've got the Pappases, Magistrate Pappas. I wore a uniform too, you know. I drink from the same trough as them, okay? I used to wear a police uniform. So we have that type of magistrate who would boast like that, while in the same time that same system allowed for high-ranking, I mean high-level drug importers to con their way out of prison, I kid you not, by pretending they were handing in a drug cachet, sash, whatever. I hate that word. Handing in an arsenal of guns. So what was happening is they would get arrested for kilos and kilos of methamphetamine, heroin, whatever it was. After they were arrested, oops, I got a bit of a problem, they would arrange a gun import and then pretend they were handing in, hey, officer, hey, lawyer, tell the police I'll hand in 27 guns I know are going to be on the port on this day, da-da-da-da-da. They wouldn't tell them which custom official was in on it. They would just say, hey, container 427 has guns. Nobody would get arrested, just guns would be taken out of the shipping container, right? Hang on. So they were arranging their own fake gun imports and conning the police, the police who very dodgy, who should have been all fixed up back in 2007, into letting them out of prison, sometimes no prison sentences at all, for kilos of methamphetamine in exchange for these fake gun imports. That's what happens. This is why I'm getting at, when you hear of police corruption and not following processes and procedures, you think, oh yeah, whatever. It has a knock-on effect like there is no tomorrow, girlfriend. Because 15 years after that, we've now got more drugs on the street than ever in Melbourne, record crime levels in exchange for what? The removal of guns off the streets of Lebanon or northern Afghanistan. You see, it is madness, and it needs, and people need to be held to account. That's what needs to happen. Aside just putting in a genuine independent body, people actually need to be held to account for this. These are people's lives these muppets have been playing with. These are people's lives. People like Pappas see no problem with using women in that way, in the most degrading way. She saw no problem to it. She sees no problem with the completely illegal, weaponized misuse of AI bot technology until the people that it is leveled on, she knew exactly what was rumoured behind it. The crimes, the innocent people, even police officers, innocent, brave frontline officers. It is disgusting. See ya. Got more. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tune in. Mickey Caleb tuning out.